40 million homeowners. It is a number designed to hit you in the chest. It sounds precise, authoritative, inevitable. It suggests a wave so large that resistance is pointless. When people hear it, they imagine empty streets, foreclosure signs, families packing boxes, and retirement plans evaporating overnight. But dramatic numbers are rarely forecasts. They are warnings about exposure. To understand whether millions could truly lose everything, we have to slow down and examine what losing everything actually means in real financial life. Because markets do not destroy people randomly, they follow mechanisms. Pressure builds in identifiable places, weakness accumulates in predictable patterns. And when breaks happen, they usually happen where preparation was thin and assumptions were strong. Housing feels safe. It is familiar, it is physical. You can touch it, improve it, live in it. That sense of control makes people underestimate risk. Yet a home purchased with debt is a leveraged asset, and leverage always converts small changes into large consequences. If prices fall 10%, a homeowner with little equity may lose half of their net worth. If income drops, a comfortable payment can become impossible in a matter of months. If credit tightens, the escape routes people assumed would be available simply vanish. None of this requires panic. It requires arithmetic. Every housing cycle in modern history has followed the same emotional path. In the expansion, buyers believe appreciation will outrun any temporary hardship. They stretch, they accept thinner margins. They tell themselves they will refinance later, or that rising values will solve the problem. Optimism becomes policy. Then conditions change. Sales slow, days on market extend, incentives appear. Suddenly the belief that homes are effortless wealth machines starts to weaken. Not collapse, not yet, but soften. And when belief softens, behavior changes. Buyers hesitate, lenders scrutinize. Employers grow cautious. That is when vulnerability reveals itself. The claim that 40 million homeowners could lose everything is really a claim that a very large group has limited room for error. It is about fragility. It is about how many households depend on continued stability in jobs, credit availability, and manageable expenses. Remove stability, and outcomes spread widely. Some people adapt, others are forced. The difference between those groups rarely comes down to intelligence. It comes down to buffers, savings, flexibility, access to support. Time. Time is the invisible asset in every downturn. Those who possess it can wait for conditions to normalize. Those who do not must accept whatever price the market offers. So before we argue about headlines, we need to understand the machine that converts stress into loss. Because once you see the gears, the number stops being mystical. It becomes conditional. And conditions can be prepared for. Homeowners are not usually ruined by falling prices alone. They are ruined when falling prices collide with interrupted income and limited liquidity. Imagine two families on the same street who bought similar houses at similar values. The first family has stable employment, significant savings, and relatives they could rely on in an emergency. If the market drops, they complain, postpone renovation plans, maybe cancel a vacation, but they continue making payments. Years later, the cycle turns. Their stress becomes a story they tell at dinner. The second family lives closer to the edge. Their budget works, but only if everything goes right. A reduction in hours, an unexpected medical bill, or a rise in insurance premiums begins to eat through reserves. Credit cards bridge the gap for a while. Anxiety rises, sleep declines. Decisions become reactive instead of strategic. If at that moment they need to sell and buyers are scarce, mathematics becomes brutal. This is how wipeouts occur. During expansions, people treat liquidity as laziness. Cash seems unproductive compared to rising property values. Why hold reserves earning little when housing appears to deliver so much? So emergency funds shrink, down payments narrow, risk concentrates silently. Then contraction reverses the logic. Liquidity becomes oxygen. With oxygen, families negotiate, search for work, restructure obligations, or rent part of their homes. Without it, deadlines dictate outcomes. The bank's calendar replaces personal preference. When analysts speak about tens of millions at risk, they are mapping how many households might run out of oxygen if the environment changes quickly. Notice the conditional language, if. Forecasting the exact moment of strain is almost impossible. Economies can absorb pressure longer than pessimists expect. Governments can intervene. Migration can create pockets of surprising strength. Yet the presence of uncertainty does not eliminate exposure. What matters for an investor is not prophecy but distribution. Where are people thin? How many months could they endure disruption? Which regions rely heavily on industries that fluctuate? Where did buyers stretch the furthest relative to income? Those areas become sensitive first. Another accelerant is structure. Adjustable rates, expiring tax abatements, rising association fees, or insurance repricing can all shift monthly obligations upward faster than wages grow. A budget that balanced last year can tilt negative this year without any dramatic headline. When that happens broadly, listings accumulate. Not because owners want to leave, but because they must. Forced supply is the true driver of rapid declines. Voluntary sellers can wait, forced sellers cannot. And their urgency establishes new reference prices for everyone else. That is the path from vulnerability to visible market damage. But again, visible damage is not universal. It is clustered among those with the least room to maneuver. Understanding that difference is the beginning of control. So how does someone avoid becoming part of a frightening statistic? Preparation begins with honesty. If income stopped tomorrow, how long could payments continue? Not theoretically, not with heroic assumptions, with the cash and credit actually available. The answer might be comforting, or it might be unsettling, but it is real, and reality is far more useful than optimism. Next comes scenario thinking. What happens if property taxes rise? If insurance reprices after regional disasters? If commuting costs change or rental demand weakens? Many owners never run these numbers because they fear the answers. Yet unexamined risk does not disappear. It waits. Flexibility is another shield. The ability to generate income from a spare room, to relocate temporarily for work, or to reduce discretionary spending quickly can transform a potential crisis into an inconvenience. Options create time, and time allows recovery. Behavior under stress may be the most underestimated factor of all. In declining markets, paralysis is expensive. Owners who confront problems early often find solutions: loan modifications, temporary assistance, private arrangements, creative uses of space. Those who delay until notices arrive discover that choices have narrowed. Why do people delay? Because accepting change feels like admitting failure. They hope tomorrow will restore yesterday. Sometimes it does. But planning cannot depend on mercy. The phrase, 40 million homeowners could lose everything, is powerful because it suggests inevitability. Yet markets operate on probabilities shaped by preparation. The more households build buffers, the smaller that number becomes. Cycles are not punishments. They are resets. Excess leverage retreats, prices reconnect with incomes, and eventually opportunity returns. The individuals who endure the contraction are usually positioned to benefit disproportionately from the expansion that follows. Survival, therefore, is not passive. It is an active strategy built from liquidity, information, and willingness to adapt. If you maintain reserves, monitor your payment trajectory, and act before pressure becomes desperation, you dramatically reduce the chance that external shocks can dictate your future. Headlines will continue to compete for attention. Bigger numbers will appear. Fear will always market well. But statistics do not make decisions. People do. And the households that treat risk management as part of ownership rather than an afterthought are the ones most likely to remain standing when volatility passes. The goal is simple. Remain solvent long enough to see the other side of the cycle. Do that, and even the loudest prediction loses its power.